You know that feeling, right? You read a chapter, you nod along, you think, yep, I got this. But then, when you try to explain it to someone, or even just to yourself, it all falls apart. Well, today, we're going to break down a really powerful method that promises to fix that, helping you learn pretty much anything, not just faster, but way, way deeper.
And it all starts with this quote from the man himself, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. People didn't just call him a genius, they called him the Great Explainer. And for a really good reason. He had this core belief, if you truly get something, you don't need all the complicated jargon and fancy words. You can make it simple. And that one little idea, that's the key to everything we're about to talk about.
So that's the big question, isn't it? This isn't just about cramming facts for a test or being able to throw around some impressive-sounding terms. We're talking about real, genuine understanding. So, how in the world do we actually get there? All right, let's dive in. Section 1. A genius's learning secret. We're going to unpack the mind of a great explainer. And believe me, this isn't just another study tip. This is a whole new way of thinking. Okay, so what is this secret? It's called the Feynman Technique. And what's so brilliant about it is just how simple it is. We're talking about a straightforward 4-step process that can take you from just kind of knowing something to deeply, truly understanding it.
So here are the 4 steps. It's super practical. Step 1, you pick a concept you want to learn, and you just write down everything you know about it. Just dump it all onto a page. Step 2, and this is the absolute key, pretend you're teaching it to a 12-year-old. You have to use simple words, simple analogies, no jargon. Step 3 is where the magic happens. You review your own explanation and you'll immediately see where the gaps are, where you got stuck, where you had to use a complicated word. That's your signal to go back to the books and fill in those holes. And finally, step 4, you test it. You take your new, refined, simple explanation and try it out.
And this quote just nails it. The whole point of simplifying isn't just to make it easy for someone else. It's a test for you. It forces you to confront what you don't actually know. I mean, think about it. The moment you start reaching for jargon, it's a huge red flag that you probably don't understand it well enough yourself. Real mastery. That's about making the complex simple.
Okay, so this all sounds great, right? It feels intuitive, it feels powerful. But is it just a cool life hack from a smart guy, or is there some actual science to back this up? Let's dig in and find out.
So let's turn to the science of studying. What do the learning experts, the cognitive psychologists, actually recommend? And we're going to see exactly how Feynman's method stacks up.
And our main guide for this part is a massive, landmark study from 2013. A group of researchers basically looked at 100 years of scientific evidence on 10 of the most common learning techniques. They wanted to figure out, once and for all, what actually works, and what is just a complete waste of our time.
And the results were, well, they were pretty surprising. They sorted all 10 techniques into 3 buckets: high, medium, and low effectiveness. But what's crazy is how lopsided it was. Only 2 techniques made it into that top high utility group. Meanwhile, 5 of them, half the list, were dumped into the low utility bucket.
So, what actually works? Let's focus on those 2 high utility champions that the science says we should all be using. First up is something called practice testing. Now, don't just think of big, formal practice exams. This is way broader. It's any time you actively try to pull information out of your brain. So yeah, flashcards count, but so does just stopping after you read a page and asking yourself, okay, what were the main ideas there? It's about retrieving, not just rereading.
And the second heavy hitter is distributed practice. You probably know it by its other name, the exact opposite of cramming. It's all about spacing things out. Instead of one monster 5-hour study session, you're way better off doing 5 separate 1-hour sessions spread over a week. For long-term memory, it's not even a contest.
Okay, so now for the big aha moment. Let's put Feynman's technique side by side with these scientific principles. That crucial step 2, teach it to a 12-year-old, what is that? It's a fantastic form of practice testing. You are actively forcing yourself to retrieve the information. And what about steps 3 and 4? Reviewing, refining, going back to it later? Well, that's distributed practice in action. You're spacing out your engagement with the material.
So here's the bottom line. Decades before this big study came out, Richard Feynman, just through his own intuition and experience, built the learning system that perfectly harnesses the 2 most powerful, scientifically backed learning strategies we know of. It's incredible. He basically figured out what works just by figuring out what works.
All right, so we know what works, but it is just as important to talk about what doesn't work. Let's take a look at some of those really popular study habits that turn out to be surprisingly ineffective.
And as we go through this list, I want you to be honest with yourself. Think about how you study. Do any of these ring a bell? Because I'm betting at least one of them will.
So here they are, the low-utility techniques. Rereading your notes or the textbook, highlighting and underlining, writing summaries, using keyword mnemonics, and using imagery to remember text. Now, the researchers aren't saying these are completely useless, but compared to the heavy hitters like practice testing, they just don't pack the same punch for real long-term learning.
I mean, let's just take rereading. It is so common. One study found that 84% of students at an elite university said it was one of their main study strategies. But here's the trap. Rereading creates what's called an illusion of fluency. The words start to look familiar, so you think you know the material. But all you've done is recognize the words on the page. You haven't actually understood the concepts behind them.
And you know what? Highlighting can be even worse. Some research suggests it can actually hurt your learning. Why? Because when you drag that yellow marker across a sentence, you're tricking your brain into focusing on that one tiny, isolated fact, and you stop thinking about how it connects to everything else. You lose the forest for the trees, and making those connections is what real learning is all about.
Okay, so it's time for a new study playbook. And the big shift, the central idea, is moving away from passive learning and embracing active learning.
And this table really says it all, doesn't it? Look at practice testing. High utility, and it feels hard. It's an active process. Now look at highlighting and rereading. Low utility, and they feel easy, passive. That feeling right there is your God. The easy way is usually the wrong way. And if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Effective learning is supposed to feel effortful. That struggle, that feeling of, this is hard, that's not a sign you're failing. That's the feeling of your brain actually doing the work. It's the feeling of learning itself. You're building knowledge, not just letting it wash over you.
So, I'll leave you with a challenge. Based on everything we've talked about, which one of those easy, comfortable, but totally ineffective learning habits are you going to break first?